Imagine for a second trying to find one single theory, one beautiful idea that could explain every piece of music ever made. Not just Beethoven, not just the blues, but everything. A kind of universal code for sound. It sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? Well, that was the incredible challenge that drove theorist Rahn.
I mean, just think about the sheer range of what we're talking about. You've got the ancient flowing lines of a Gregorian chant, something that feels like it's existed forever. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have the unbelievably intricate interlocking rhythms from a traditional African ensemble, just a stunning tapestry of time.
And from there, you can jump to the modern world, to the abstract, almost mathematical precision of a 12-tone piece, music that was designed to throw out all the old rules.
So what on earth could possibly connect all of these? What single, fundamental principle could unite these sounds that seem worlds apart? This is the question that really started Rahn on his entire journey.
So before we can even get to Rahn's big idea, we've got to look at why the old answers just, well, they weren't working. To build something new, you have to see where the cracks are in the old foundation.
For ages, people basically fell into two big camps on this. The first camp says, hey, music is all about culture. It's about symbolic meanings, social events, things we learn. The other camp looks inward and says, no, it's about psychology. It's about how our brains are hardwired to hear patterns and feel tension and release.
But Rahn, he just wasn't buying it. For him, both of these approaches were way too fuzzy. I mean, how does a cultural theory explain brand new music that the culture hasn't even heard yet? And the psychological stuff often came down to vague feelings, But the real problem was that both of them relied on these ill-defined words like melody and rhythm. Rahn said that's like ancient alchemy, trying to explain the world with earth, air, fire, and water. It describes what you're hearing, sure, but it doesn't explain the deep structure underneath.
So if the old theories were too messy, what do you do? Rahn's solution was, honestly, it was pretty radical. He decided to go back, way back, to the absolute simplest building blocks he could possibly imagine. And this right here, this is the key. Rahn basically borrowed this idea from theoretical physics. It's called the principle of economy. The idea is that the most powerful theories aren't the most complicated ones. They're the ones that use the fewest, simplest assumptions to explain the most stuff.
And this is such a brilliant way to think about it. All of geometry, right? All of its incredible complexity, it all starts from just two basic, undefined ideas, a point and a line. Rahn was convinced you could do the same for music. Build a theory for everything from just a few of these primitive, totally self-evident concepts.
So, what are these magic building blocks? Well, it turns out one of them is something so simple, so obvious, that most of music theory just kind of glossed over it for centuries.
And that idea is adjacency. Seriously, that's it. The simple, intuitive idea that one thing is next to another thing in a line. It doesn't matter how far apart they are, doesn't matter if one is higher or lower, it's just the pure relationship of being neighbors.
Okay, so check this out. Let's see how this one tiny idea can build, well, basically everything. You start with a simple line of points, which Rahn called a cue. From there, you can group points that are next to each other into bands. And then, if you just connect the two ends of a band, boom, you get a cycle. And just like that, from the simple idea of what's next, you've literally generated the basic structures for both scales and rhythms.
Okay, and this is where it all comes together in a way that is seriously cool. Because when you use this super simple, structural approach, you uncover this hidden symmetry right at the heart of music, a secret connection between melody and rhythm.
So take a look at this. It's a simple scale pattern, right? You hear it and your brain immediately thinks melody, pitch, high notes, low notes.
Okay, but now, and this is the key, I want you to do a little thought experiment. Forget about the pitch, forget high and low. Just look at the abstract pattern itself, the relationships between the points in that line. Because when you take that exact same abstract pattern and apply it to time instead of pitch, you get this, the famous habanera rhythm. It's this incredibly infectious pattern you hear in music all over the world. It's not a melody, it's a series of beats in time. And here's the wild part. The underlying structure, it's exactly the same. Both of them are created by the same simple process. You start with 8 units, an octave, or 8 beats in a measure. You divide it into a group of 3 and a group of 5. Then you divide that 5 into a 3 and a 2. Those exact same abstract steps can give you either a foundational melody or a foundational rhythm. And that
That is the secret symmetry. At this deep structural level, pitch and time are isomorphic. They share the same form. The same beautifully simple rules can create what our ears hear as two completely different things, melody and rhythm. They're two sides of the same coin.
So, why does any of this matter? I mean, what's the point? For Rahn, finding a universal theory wasn't just about being correct. It was about something deeper, something almost aesthetic. It was about the search for elegance.
You see, a good theory, it just works. But a great theory, an elegant theory, it does so much more. It shows you unity, how things that seem totally different, like pitch and time, are secretly the same. It shows you richness, how you can get all this amazing complexity from the simplest starting point. And it has economy, explaining the absolute most with the absolute least.
And to really hammer this home, Rahn looked outside of music entirely, to theoretical physics, and he quoted the legendary physicist Paul Dirac. What Dirac is saying here is that at the highest level, the search for truth is also a search for beauty. The belief is that a truly fundamental law of nature won't be messy, it will be simple and beautiful.
And that leaves us with this one kind of mind-bending final thought. What if music isn't just something we humans do? What if, at its deepest level, the elegant logic that connects every chant, every rhythm, every symphony, is a reflection of the very same kind of universal principles that govern the entire cosmos?